Manchester United 0, Southampton 0. Disappointing. You don't obviously want to draw at home to a team fighting relegation, especially after, building somewhat of a little bit of momentum on Thursday night. We said this was the one that we wanted to get the win to fully bounce back. But games like this happen. It was a game where, look, the red card completely changes the game. It really does. I thought we was fairly comfortable before that. Ten Hag, going with the right approach. I thought, I'm not going to criticise that approach. Leaving Casemiro as a lone 6 and having 2 progressive 8s in terms of Jadon Sancho and Bruno, and it was working in the first sort of 5-10 minutes of the game. I thought Bruno had that kind of free role, whilst Jadon Sancho was the straight 10. And it was okay. I was happy with what we were doing. We lacked that little bit of clinical edge in the final third, though, and actually that was the annoying part. We lacked the clinical edge in the final third, and it was actually Southampton who ended up having the best chance of the first half with the Theo Walcott header. And I think when you get to that period of the game, that's quite early, should I say? That's quite early in the game. We have to keep our foot on the throttle, and we're just struggling to do that a little bit. I think fatigue really is kicking in. Obviously, we're in all these competitions, which is where we want to be. We're in a position where we're, comfortably third in the league with a game in hand, and we want to keep pushing. We're not going to win the league, and I don't think we're going to drop out the top 4. So we're kind of just making sure we keep getting enough points to tick over. That's what the objective is now, to secure that third position. Because I don't think we'll get second or first, of course. But when the red card happens, that's what kills us. I mean, it's one of those where it could go either way. I looked at it and thought it was quite harsh. When I looked at the replay at half time, you can see the other side of it where they do get given. Casemiro wins the ball, but the follow through is what takes him through to the Southampton player. But to me, it's a yellow card at worst. When you slow it down and you're giving all the angles, it's like they wanted to send him off. And look, those ones, though, I'm not fuming about that. I'm more fuming about the display of Anthony Taylor aside from that, because I thought it's absolutely shocking performance from him today. Absolutely disgusting performance. And we should have had a penalty. The Southampton defender who's basically on the floor and stops the ball with his hand. How that isn't a penalty, I don't know. The Bruno one, probably a bit innocuous, and obviously the Rashford one, I don't think that was a pen. But, there's got to be a penalty before that. That went against us. But essentially, at 10 men, it killed us. It really did. And I think you can tell by Casemiro's reaction, he wasn't exactly remonstrating with the referee. He was more like, that's just one of them ones where I've gone in, the follow-through's gone a little bit high, and I've got to hold it. And he's going to be a big miss. And actually, it's a bigger concern, just away from the game, the fatigue kicking in and actually the lack of options, because now we're down to a little bit of bare bones, all going back to what we used to have last year, which is back to McTominay and Fred and Bruno in there, because Sabitzer's had a little bit of a knock, wasn't in the team against Betis, wasn't in the team today. Casemiro's going to be missing long-term, for 4 games, sorry. And obviously, Christian Eriksen's still missing long-term. So we are struggling a little bit in there. And I do think the accumulation of games as well is not helping. We're struggling to, Marcel spoke about, we're struggling to control the games for long periods, which has actually been a common theme for large parts this season, because we're not there yet. We don't have a lot of progressive ball carriers in midfield, and we're definitely not the team yet at this stage of our development to go a man down and say, right, no problem, we're going to absolutely smother you, we're going to be on the front foot. We haven't worked that bit out yet. That's just not where we are. I think we defended quite solidly. To be fair, I think Martinez was probably the standout. But look, it was a game where we could have lost that. And I think that's the important thing. When you get games like that, you take the point, you move on. Essentially, they hit the post, Kyle Walker-Peters. I think James Ward-Prowse grazed the top of the crossbar, thought he scored. Same in the first half, came close with a free kick. So, we hit the post in the second half. A couple of chances when we were in behind, didn't quite make it count. So, look, at the end, it was good to not lose the game. It was when you get into situations like that, just make sure you don't lose. You go down to 10 men. The only criticism I do have of how we were today was I would have liked to have seen us a bit more brave or a bit more aggressive, even though we had 10 men. Once it became a game for transitions in terms of getting people running in behind, because we were going to surrender a little bit of possession because we had 10 men, fine. But also another criticism, I would have made the changes a little bit earlier. I would have got Garnacho in there earlier. It wasn't a game for Jadon Sancho, I thought, in the 9 position when it got to 10 men. So that was a little bit of an issue as well. But essentially, I think the fatigue kicked in, and we just lacked the quality. I think Bruno in that free role as a deeper player. It worked early doors, but you know, again, when the game changed, he had a different role. I thought McTominay did decent when he came on. Wan-Bissaka was okay. There was just a lot of okay performances. Luke Shaw was part of some of the really good stuff that we did, but was part of some of the not so good stuff, especially in the first sort of like 5 minutes. He gave away like 3 passes, surrendered possession straight away, so it took him a while to get into the game. And we just couldn't really recover. Rashi didn't look quite there today. And it's just one of them where, you know, we can't win every game. We can't win every game. At least we haven't lost. Was it disappointing? Of course, because, you know, we wanted to just get 3 points back on the board, especially what happened last week. But Liverpool being Liverpool done us a favour against the Cherries yesterday. They're all in my mentions now. Weird bunch. They lost. They did lose. So we've extended. We've got a point and they didn't. But obviously that is what it is. You almost kind of just want to just stop talking about it. Like, it happened, they lost, and we didn't, so we got a point. And we move. What my biggest concern is going forward with the squad back to bare bones in the centre of midfield. McTominay's going to have to step up now. Fred, who always needs to step up, he's going to have to do it. And Bruno, because I think that's what the midfield's got to go back to. And that is kind of bare bones. I think we're going to need Sabitzer to be fit really soon, hopefully. You know, he's not out for too long. I'll be at the presser in Spain at Betis. Hopefully we get an update before that. Or hopefully Eric Ten Hag's answered it after the game. I'm not too sure. But we definitely need to see Sabitzer back in there, because if we're going into this stretch of games, and, well, you take it into international break as well. If you're going into this stretch of games of only McTominay and Fred as the pivot, you know, one injury to them, or it's not quite going right, there's a complete lack of options already in that position, because Casemiro's going to be out for 4 games. Big miss, you know, at home to Fulham. Got to be tough. We want to get through to the semi-finals of the FA Cup, which would be a massive boost. Ironically, against Betis, you know, Casemiro can play. You'd probably want him to miss that one and rotate the side, but obviously he'll play now because, you know, he's not going to be playing for 4 games. I just think that was the real killer. And although I would like to have seen us be a bit more aggressive, even though we had 10 men, I can understand it. We're a growing side. We're not where we want to be. This side is a new side. This side is a team that doesn't have every single aspect that we want to have. And it was important not to lose. And Old Trafford still is a fortress. But, you know, on the downside is that we keep letting teams kind of come back into the game after either not starting well, where they can get back into it, or starting well and then dropping off. It was similar. Look what happened against Betis. You know, we went 1-0 up against after like 8 minutes, and then, you know, a little lapse of concentration, we allowed them in. But obviously with 11 men, with a full set of players, we were able to go on and push at 1-1. We weren't able to do that today. And like I said, today we could have lost. We could have lost the game. So look, tough one to take, but at the end of the day, we didn't lose, and that's the main point. And we move. So get the win against against Betis. Get back. If we can get into the semi-final of the FA Cup, that will raise the level before the international break, and then we get back out of that on a tough trip away to Newcastle. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace.